stepped into Atria all the way to my final year, we've had various labs, not just scholastical but also practical. We've had labs spanning from analysis, modeling and design all the way to biomechanical engineering. At Atria, the professors not just teach you academically but also draw parallelism to the real world market and make you industry ready.
The department also organizes conferences and workshops for professional interaction to provide best placement and internship opportunities.
Located in the midst of all IT activities at Marathahalli, Bangalore, was founded in the year 1983 by Dr. K.C. Samuel. His passion for aviation and teaching made him start the first private flying school in India and set up the Aircraft Engineering Center, specializing in aviation electronics or avionics as per ICAO standards. In the past 3 decades since its inception, the Academy has pushed all boundaries to achieve academic excellence and become a one-stop destination for all careers related to the field of aviation, engineering, and management. We welcome you to become a part of a 36-year legacy and fly high with careers in aviation, engineering, and management.
Sangam Group of Institutions, Kanakpura Road, Bangalore. Admissions open for Bachelor of Engineering in Artificial Intelligence and Data Science, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, Computer Science and Design, CSE, ECE, Mechanical, Civil, Bachelor of Architecture, MBA. 3 years of Diploma. Call 9606064186 or 187 or 188.
Hello, Shan.
Shaheen Group of Institutions, one of the leading and premier abodes of learning in India. Nestled in a picturesque locale of Bidar, a hilltop city in northeastern part of Karnataka. Shaheen evoked by the visionary icon and chairman Dr. Abdul Qadir back in 1989. Now it's a major hub of academic excellence, touching the lives of more than 16,000 students across the world.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to the afternoon session of the Hindu Education Plus Career Counseling Digital Conclave. I'm Anuja Ganesh from the Hindu group and I'll be moderating this session. I would like to thank the parents and students who have participated in this webinar series. And on this note, I would like to thank our sponsors for making this possible. Our gold sponsors are AMC Education Institutions, Atria Institute of Technology, Insight IAS, and our silver sponsors are Sir M. Vishweswaraya Institute of Engineering, Hindustan Business School, KS Group of Institutions, Shaheen Group of Institutions, Bidar, Rajarajeshwari Group of Institutions, and Ramaya University, Bengaluru. We shall begin our afternoon session on how to crack UPSC exam. We have with us Mr. L.K. Atik. Welcome, sir.
Namaskaram.
Namaskara, sir. Mr. L.K. Atik, currently working as Principal Secretary, Rural Development of Panchayat Raj. He is responsible for implementation of rural drinking water supply, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, rural roads and Panchayat Raj institutions. He joined Indian Administrative Services in 1991. He has worked in various capacities in Karnataka state. He has also served in the Government of India. Has also worked as Principal Secretary to CM of Karnataka on key policy and administrative services. Thank you for being with us today, sir. We request you to guide our students for a bright career. Over to you, Mr. Atik.
Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to all the listeners who have participated in this webinar. First of all, let me start with a disclaimer that I am a very senior IAS officer, which means that I have joined the IAS 30 years ago in 1991. I wrote the examination in the years 1989 and 90. So since then, a lot of things have changed. The examination pattern has changed. The level of competition has also increased over these years. So therefore, I would advise the listeners to update themselves about the current system of examination. What are the papers, etc., etc. I will not be getting into too much of those details. But generally, I will talk to you about what it is like to prepare for this the UPSC examination, what we should do, what we should not do, what do we expect, etc., etc. So let me begin with a question that each one of us should pose it to ourselves. Why do you want to join the civil services? As you are aware, the UPSC examination is a common entrance examination for several services, including the Indian Administrative Service, Indian Foreign Service, Police Service, Revenue Service, and several other services in Group A as well as in Group B. Typically, every year, the Government of India recruits anywhere between 500 to 700 people through this examination. And out of them, maybe around 150 to 180 people get into the Indian Administrative Service, and other services come down next in the order of ranking. Typically, what you are asked to do is that when you are applying for the main examination, you will be asked to choose your services in order of priority. What do you want to, what service do you want? The IAS, IFS, IPS, this kind of a service ordering is done. You are also asked to choose the cadre in which you want to go and serve. Typically, people choose their own home cadre, but everybody does not get home cadre, and therefore there is a zonal system, and then you have to choose. So this is the pattern of the. This is how the the UPSC is organized, which means for IAS, IPS, IFS, Revenue Service, and various other services, you write a common civil services examination, that is a UPSC examination, that is held in 3 stages. There is a preliminary examination, then there is for those who qualify the prelims, they will write the main examination, and those who qualify the main examination, the interview will be held, and afterwards the final selection takes place. Generally, the competition keeps on increasing. First, actually, the number of people who appear for civil services is preliminary examination is pretty large, and then they get filtered when only those who clear the prelims go into the mains, and then only those who clear the mains above a particular cutoff, they will go into the interview, and so on and so forth. So we have to ask the question, first of all, why do I want to join the civil services? Because this is not just any other career choice. You have to make a very serious evaluation of your reasons why you want to join. Because once you are very clear that this is the path I want to take, I want to serve in public service. So, and civil services not only provide job security, but it also provides a challenging career, an opportunity to serve the people, an opportunity to hold senior positions in government, etc., etc. There could be several reasons. You have to be very clear that I want to join. Because once you are very clear, then only you should move ahead, because this is not a career where you can make a half-hearted attempt. This career demands the preparation for to enter into this career, demands a very full-fledged attention on your part, and you have to prepare over a longer period of time. You have to commit at least 1 or 2 or 3 years of your life to this examination, or perhaps even more. Because the preparation for civil services cannot be like a CET preparation. You can't say that, okay, the examination is in the month of, let's say, June. I will think of starting to prepare in the month of March, April, May, maybe 2 to 3 months, I'll go and crack the examination. Civil services actually tests the overall personality of the individual. How knowledgeable he or she is, how broad is the knowledge base. Have they understood that? Do they know the history of India, the geography of India? Do they have a basics of science and technology? Are they aware of the current affairs, etc., etc.? So since the examination tests a wide range of skills and knowledge both, you cannot prepare for this examination in a very short time. So therefore, first requirement to crack this examination is you need to make up your mind. You need to have your reasons. You need to be prepared. Once you make up your reasons, you need to start early. Some people might ask, when do I start? Do I start in my schooling days? Do I start in college, etc. So I would not say that you should have started in schooling age. Many of you may not have thought about it earlier. You may be thinking about it now. So you should. I don't want to disappoint you or discourage you that okay, I did not think about it 3 years ago, therefore it is too late. No, that is not my point. In fact, if you are preparing for this appear for the preliminary examination next year, you are not prepared so far, and if you today start thinking of doing that, go ahead and try. I'm not saying that it's too late, but if you have time, if you are in the, let's say, second year of your degree or third year of your degree in a 4-year degree, or second year of degree in a 3-year degree, you start preparing for this examination mentally. And that is the best time to start. At least 2 to 3 years prior to the examination, you start preparing for this examination. And how do I prepare? It is not as if, for all these 3 years, you have to continuously sit and by heart and mug. That is not my intention. What I want to convey to you is that you have to devote a certain hours of a day for this examination right now. You should orient your thinking towards it. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, if this examination requires that you need to have a basic understanding of India's history, India's geography, its development of science and technology, the government, its constitution, okay, its legal system, the civics, what we call in school the civics, the structure of the government. There is a parliament, there is upper house Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha, lower house Lok Sabha. There is a president, there is a vice president, there is a prime minister, there is a cabinet council of ministers. All this, how are these people chosen, or how are elections conducted in this country? What is the role of the Supreme Court, the High Court, etc. So this kind of a very broad understanding can come only if you can accumulate knowledge layer by layer. This is not something that you can acquire overnight. You need to acquire knowledge layer by layer, and at the same time, you need to keep your it's my favorite way of saying is keep your eyes and ears open when you're preparing, which means, first of all, please read the newspaper. Somebody was telling me that the current, I should remind you that the current generation is hooked to TV and mobile phones, smartphones. Why current generation? Even I spend a lot of my time on mobile phone. So the reading habits have gone by the wayside. People are not reading as much as they should. But if you're an aspirant for civil services, if you want to be an IAS or IPS officer, you need to spend time in reading, starting from newspapers, magazines, books. You need to read a lot. When we were prepared, I'm not saying this because I'm the Hindu newspapers event, but the Hindu is one of the most comprehensive newspapers that has been available to us when we were preparing. Another magazine which we used to all go for was the Frontline magazine. So these magazines and these papers are available. The difference of this newspaper, Hindu and Frontline, compared to others is that these newspapers give a very comprehensive picture of any issue. Because when you're going in for civil services, when a question is asked about India's economic problems, for example, what are the problems of agriculture in India, what is the meaning of Kaveri dispute, etc., you cannot give a very passing answer. You have to have a very in-depth knowledge of these issues. What is the history of the issue we are talking about? What are the causes for this issue? What are the problems we are facing? What are the solutions people have proposed? What has been government doing in the past, etc., etc. So what I mean is, when you start preparing, you look at each problem and look at it critically and comprehensively. Look at its history, background, etc. Collect information, collect notes. One of the tips I would like to give you is, please develop the habit of reading that I already told you. Develop the habit of writing also, because writing is very, very important. Another skill that is increasingly being neglected or being lost, may not be lost, but neglected, is the writing skill and the language skills. Because you can write in any language you want. You can write in Kannada, you can write the examination in English, but whichever language it is, you need to have a control over that and command over that language. Kannadadalli ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರಭುತ್ವ ಇರಬೇಕು. If you're doing it in English, you need to have a good skills in English, not only to read, because you need to read fast and comprehend. and reproduce. So typically what I used to do when I was preparing for this examination was that I used to read an issue and make notes and keep the notes together, because second time when you revisit the issue, because you, however good or sharp your recall, the power of recall is, you still will forget. One reading is certainly not sufficient for any issue, and the number of issues are so vast. You cannot keep on reading the same issue again and again. You can read once and maybe you will not be able to go back to that issue again. Now, how do I deal with this issue? How do I deal with this problem? What you do is you read about it and you make brief notes about it, bullet points, small points, and keep it with you. And you keep refreshing your memory. You again go back to that and see. If you have spent 1 hour reading about one particular problem or a question in any of the subjects that you are choosing, next time you want to refresh your memory, if you have good notes, in 5 minutes you can finish it. So that is the that's why I say it's important that you read as well as write. So I would like to say this much: develop a very broader understanding of the issues around you, the world, the country, our history. You should know as to what has been India's freedom struggle from 1700s till 1947. How have we fought for elections? How have we fought against the British Empire? What is the role different people have played? What is the role of the extremist, of the modernist, and what role did Gandhi play, etc., etc. So you need to have a very good understanding of India's history, its culture, its geography, which crop is grown where, and what is the role that Himalayas play in our climate situation. How do southwest monsoons come? What is the role of southwest monsoons in India's agriculture? What is food security issue? What is National Rural Employment Guarantee? What do you mean by Green Revolution? How did Green Revolution solve the food problem of India? So there are umpteen number of questions that you will face, and you will be able to answer these only if you have developed knowledge of these subjects, these issues over a longer period of time, not in a very short period of time. So the principles are: please start early, decide your optionals, because in earlier we used to write 2 optionals when we wrote the examination. Currently there is only 1 optional and lot of general studies. There are several papers of general studies. For the preliminary, there are only 2 papers of general studies. One general knowledge, in that paper there are 100 questions, and sky is the limit for the kind of questions that can come. You cannot really predict. You can't say, sorry, question out of syllabus. This was not there in syllabus. There is no such thing. Any question can be asked. So therefore you have to prepare for preliminary examination. Your general knowledge should be wide. And the second one is what is called a CSAT. It's a aptitude test. So in that, your language, your quantitative skills, your basic mathematical skills, your analytical skills will be tested. Fortunately, right now the CSAT examination is not of a merit nature. Their marks you acquire, you gain in that paper are not counted. It's only a qualifying marks, a basic cutoff you should clear. And otherwise, you have to focus on general studies. And once you clear the general studies, for the main examination, you have to choose an optional. That optional could be anything. It could be a subject of your choice that you have studied in your graduation. I forgot to tell you, the basic qualification for civil services is a graduate of any Indian recognized university, any recognized university. So you can be a BA, you can be a BE, you can be MBBS, you can be anything. You can be a BCom, any degree from a recognized university is enough. So it could be a subject of your choice, could be what you have studied. You studied BA history, you want to take history, go ahead. You have done political science, if you have done engineering, you want to take mathematics, go ahead. But be very careful, because sometimes certain subjects are known to be not very scoring. Or if you are an engineer, but you may be an engineer, but your command and control over mathematics may not be that strong, or physics may not be that strong. So what happens is, many of the science graduates, they end up taking art subjects. They will take anthropology or public administration, history, sociology. My own optionals were, I am a student of economics. I have a post-graduation in economics. So I took economics as my first optional. For my second optional, I took sociology. I could have taken agriculture, but agriculture, people said, is very vast and I was not very confident. I went in for sociology, partly because I had an interest in that subject and I had never studied it, but I could pick up. So you choose your optional right in the beginning, because even though for preliminary examination there is no optional, but you have to prepare for optional for a longer time. So you choose your optional right in the beginning. You start preparing for that optional. You prepare for general studies and you clear your preliminary examination. Then you go into the main examination. In the main examination, essay is very important. The other thing that is most important is a paper on what is called as ethics and moral aptitude. So ethics and moral aptitude is a little bit of a esoteric subject. It is not very easy. So you have to focus your attention on learning those. And as I said, there are a lot of engineers, sometimes their language skills are not very good. No offense to them, but essay writing might be a problem. Therefore, you have to practice writing essay. And the final stage is interview. Because with this, I'll finish because I've already spent 18 minutes. My plan was to speak for around 20 to 25 minutes, and then I will leave the floor open for questions. I'm sure you people may have many questions. So then interview. Interview is actually an exercise in assessing your personality, your aptitude. How well can you do under pressure? Can you respond to a challenge that is suddenly posed to you in an interview? More than the knowledge, because knowledge is tested quite extensively in the preliminary and the main examination. In the interview, you are tested basically your personality, your language, your command over language. How are you able to answer? Are you in a position to come up with solutions fast? Suddenly, they give you some problem about which you would not have thought of. But because you are a sharp person, you might, in the interview, be able to think for a minute or two and then give a reply. It is that kind of a testing that is done in the main examination. So this is all I wanted to tell you as to how to crack the civil services. The question is a big one. Actually, nobody can give you a formula as to how to crack civil services examination. It's a very challenging examination. Lakhs and lakhs of people appear. Ultimately, only around 600 people get selected. Out of them, only around 150 to 170 people get into the IAS. Maybe another 150 people get into the IPS, etc. So from about 20-30 lakh people who appear, finally about a few hundred people get selected. And therefore, it's a very stiff competition. But having said that, I don't want to discourage people. One thing that you should not have while preparing for this examination is the fear of the examination itself. Fear of the outcome. If you keep wondering, ಏನಪ್ಪಾ ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿವಸ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಸೋತ್ ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, this kind of a thought might come. Is it worth giving 2 to 3 attempts, 3 years of my life? Ultimately, what will happen if I may not succeed? So that kind of a thought process could be a very negative thought process. When I wrote the examination, I had no guarantee. In fact, nobody has any guarantee that you will succeed. But this is something that if you want to do it, you should prepare yourself and start attempting to it. Make an effort, sincere effort, and people will succeed. Some people may not succeed. Those who succeed do not succeed. Also, let me assure you this. The effort is never wasted. At the end of the day, after 2.5 years, it's good luck. It's a great opportunity if you get into it. If you are not able to get into it, also, you would have developed enough knowledge, understanding to crack other examination and go over. Therefore, don't worry about outcomes. Start preparing for it. Also, don't worry too much about. I am talking to people in Karnataka. Many of you may be coming from villages, from government high schools. You may be coming from small towns or villages. Do not let your background, your education, you may have Kannada medium ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರಬಹುದು. ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಥಮಿಕ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಉರ್ದು medium ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ತಿದ್ದು ನಾನು. And I studied in a small village called Akkirampura in Kottageರೆ Taluk, in a government school. There were only 2 teachers in my school. We were 60 of us. Only 2 teachers used to control us. Sometimes the teachers would not come. From that kind of a background, I came. I wrote the examination. I succeeded. The fear was there. Yenappa success agilla rain mododu anta. But never allow that kind of a fear to paralyze you, to immobilize you. If there are IAS officers who have cleared it, they may be like us only. They may have shown commitment to the cause, perseverance, hard work, sincerity, and they have succeeded. If I also put in all those, I may succeed. Even if I don't succeed, it doesn't matter. I have given a try by giving my best. This is the kind of attitude you need to have for this examination. So let me stop here. I have spoken about why you should write this examination, that you should be very clear, you should start early, you should prepare comprehensively, you should build knowledge over the years, your language skills should be very good, and you should work hard, because an inch at a time. Rome was not built in a day. So like that, you will not be ready for an examination just in a month or two. You have to prepare over a period of time. But once you do it, you make up your mind, give your best, and leave the chance to fate, God, or whatever. So with these words, I would like to end my talk here, and I would be very happy to take any questions that the listeners might have.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Ati. I think our students would have benefited from your talk to be more courageous to exceed to their careers. We'll move to the question and answers. Why is there an age limit to attend a UPSC exam?
Well, any employer would like to hire people who are young, energetic, and and therefore one has to have an age limit. In fact, the age limit when I appeared for the exam was 26. Now the age limit has been expanded. Organizations need to decide what kind of people they want. Do you want to hire a 60-year-old person? No, I am an employer. I don't want to hire a 60-year-old person. I will hire a 25-year or 26 or a 30-year-old person. That is my limit, and beyond that, I don't want to hire. It's fair.
How to join forensic department?
Forensic department, I'm afraid I don't know what are they. I'm sure a little bit of Googling the questionnaire will know. I'm sure, first of all, for forensics, you need to be a science graduate. And the forensic departments may not be recruiting that regularly, frequently. And Karnataka, I have not seen any recruitment advertisements. They may come in newspapers, and then you'll have to follow it up. But I don't know the information about the forensics department.
Okay. Another student asks, how to join Indian Foreign Service?
Foreign Service.
Yes.
I mentioned it in my talks.
Yeah.
That there is a common single examination called the UPSC examination for Group A services. So you need to appear for the same examination, and then you need to give your first preference as Indian Foreign Service. And if your rank is good enough, and you might get it. If it's not good enough, you may get other services.
Is there any restriction like height, weight for Indian Foreign Service? They're asking.
No such restrictions.
Absolutely no. One moment. Ashwika asks, hello sir, can I write UPSC exam if I take science? Is it possible for preparing and cracking it even if we take science or maths?
Yeah, obviously. You can choose a subject of your choice. Like I said, it depends on your comfort level in that subject. If you think that your understanding and knowledge and your command over the science subject of your choice, biology, mathematics, physics, or whatever, chemistry, is very good, and you are confident, and how do you know that? How can you assess that? You can assess that by looking at syllabus A, B, by looking at previous question papers. You should always, and today, because thanks to internet, Google, etc., resources are quite abundantly available on the net. You look at previous question papers. You look at, even if you are a, let's say, BSc chemistry student or BSc biochemistry student, if there is a paper of biochemistry, you look at the syllabus and previous question, then you decide how comfortable you are. Otherwise, even though you are a science graduate, you can choose history or economics or public administration, anything. In fact, a lot of engineers, even though they have studied engineering, they prefer to go in for history, sociology, public administration, or anthropology or management, rather than choosing their own science subject. So to answer your question directly, yes, you can choose the subject of your choice in science, or you can take a non-science subject as well.
Sir, what is it like to be an IAS officer? Please do share some experiences.
Okay. Well, the IAS officer is a career which is, for me, it could mean different things to different people. For me, this is a career which has been extremely rewarding, very enriching in my experience. It has given me an opportunity to travel around Karnataka state, work in different capacities in different districts, as well as work in Bangalore, Delhi, as well as in Washington, DC, in the World Bank. So this career, IAS of the post of an IAS officer, places you directly at the middle management level of government. You directly join as assistant commissioner of a subdivision. So under you, there are tahsildars, revenue, deputy tahsildars, revenue inspectors, village accountants, and various other people. So you directly sit as assistant commissioner for 2 years, and then you go and work as a CEO of a Zilla Panchayat. So you are directly given the chance to work in leadership positions in government. You are in a position to influence the course of things that are under you. You are in a position to do developmental works. You are in a position to help people. If you go to a place, you find that right now in my current job, I am very passionate about water bodies, tanks, reservoirs, and lakes. So whenever I travel, I see a tank which is silted up, etc. Then I call the officers and etc. and advise them, why don't you take up the revival of this tank? And after some time, the tank gets revived. That kind of, it gives an enormous amount of satisfaction that you are able to move things like this and do things which can impact people, impact the lives of the people, bring a positive change in the lives of the people. And therefore it has been a great journey for me being an IAS officer. I started my career as subdivisional assistant commissioner in Mangalore city in 1993. So from there I came to Bangalore, then went back to Uttar Kannada district, Karwar, as chief executive officer. That's a beautiful district, and I was in charge of the overall rural development sectors of Karwar. So I was the head of 28 departments, all the deputy director agriculture, horticulture, animal husbandry, women and child, social welfare, education, health. Morning you're talking about health, after 1 hour you're talking about education, after 1 hour. So this requires, it's a very challenging assignment, because you need to develop that capacity to be in different roles. You are talking about schooling. After some time, you're talking about vaccination. You're talking about COVID preparation. You're talking about providing drinking water to villages, etc., etc. So it gives you an opportunity to learn a lot, travel a lot, and the pay is good. It's a very rewarding experience, both materially as well as in terms of your mentally also, because you will feel satisfied. Okay, I'm doing something. As long as you do your job honestly, there are a lot of political pressures, there are a lot of difficulties, but one guiding principle is that do nothing wrong. Don't do anything wrong. Then you can come back and sleep peacefully. So, so the answer to the question is yes, it has been a very rewarding experience. I would advise and encourage people, particularly from rural background, to make an attempt and write this examination. If not IAS, you will get into IPS. If not IPS, you will get into income tax service. And there are several other services which are which take officers from the same examination.
Thank you, sir. Nim Anubhava Keli, I think our students will be more inspired to take up these kind of exams. Thank you. So the next question, Chinmay asks, is 10th marks essential as a pre-qualifier for IAS?
No.
No. Okay. How to make short notes and how to manage time?
Okay. I have seen people read, but they don't have a notebook and a pen next to them. See, even when I'm making this presentation here, I'm talking to you, I have a notebook and a pen with me. Sometimes I need to jot down. It's a good habit to have a pen and paper next to you while reading. And while reading, what you do is, if it's your own book, they generally use a highlighter or a underline important this one. You read the whole thing, think about what you have read for a minute or two, then make small points. By simplifying and by making a précis of what you have read. You can't copy the whole thing. If some people try to copy the way, then there is no point in making a notes. From your ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಂದ ಏನು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಟಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಈ ಒಂದು whole para should be reduced into one sentence. That kind of a thing, short sentence, you should make notes. How to manage time? It's a very difficult task at one level. At another level, it is not that difficult if you are systematic and if you decide. Generally, what is advised is you make a timetable. Okay, I have to prepare how many things? General studies I have to prepare. General studies ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಭಾಗಗಳಿವೆ? Okay, Indian history ಇದೆ, current events ಇದೆ, geography and science and technology ಇದೆ, government programs ಇದೆ, etc. So you make a broad, there are, let's say, 5 general studies papers. So make them 5 subjects. Okay, then there is optional, there is 6 subjects. Okay, you have to prepare for 6 subjects. Then you make a timetable, and in that timetable you allocate some time for each subject, 1 hour, 2 hour. You don't have to allocate time for all the subjects the same day. ಇವತ್ತು 3 ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಗೆ 2 ಗಂಟೆ ಅಂತ 6 ಗಂಟೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, and stick to that time limit without putting that kind of a timetable. If you go on reading, sometimes what happens, you get lost. ಒಂದೇ ಕಡೆ ನೀವು ಓದ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮರ್ತು ಬಿಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಓ ಅದು ಓದ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಟೈಮ್ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಬರ್ದಲ್ಲ ಅಂಟಿಸ್ಕೊಬಿಡಿ, ಅದ್ರ ಟೈಮ್ ಅದ್ರ ಪ್ರಕಾರ, ಅಂಡ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಸಮ್ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್. ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತು 6 ಗಂಟೆ ಈ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಡಿವೋಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ತು ಅಂತ ನನ್ಗೆ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಆ 6 hours somehow I devote. Maybe ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ 7 to 9. After then 9 o'clock you have tindi and do something else, and maybe between 2 and 4. If you are a working professionals, a lot of people, I was working in IIM Ahmedabad when I prepared for this examination. So exam ನಿಮ್ಮ ವರ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಅವರ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಟಿವಿ ಗಿವಿ ನೋಡೋದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡಿವೋಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಟೈಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ 6 to 9 3 hours ಇವತ್ತು ನಾನು ಸಂಜೆ ಡಿವೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು 6 to 7 6 to 8 ಒಂದು 2 hours ಡಿವೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಆರ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಲೇಟ್ ರೈಸರ್, ಮೇಬಿ 9 to 10 ಆರ್ 8 to 10 ಆ ಥರ ಟೈಮ್ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಇಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಟೈಮ್ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅಷ್ಟು ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ನ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬಿ ಮೈಂಡ್ಫುಲ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. ಫುಲ್ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ನ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್. ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಪ್ರಿಪರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಇಂಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಪ್ರಿಪರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಪ್ರಿಪರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಬಾರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ನ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಕವರ್ ದ ಹೋಲ್ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಒನ್ಸ್. ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ some basic understanding of that syllabus. Then you look at old papers. You analyze the last 10 years papers, and then you find out which topics have repeat value. ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಇಂದ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರತಿ ವರ್ಷ ಕೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. But there are certain subjects within the syllabus for which the UPSC has been giving more importance. I will give you an example. Sociology. In sociology, there are chapters on thinkers. Karl Marx, Emil Durkheim, Max Weber, Talcott Parsons, itara thinkers idare who have made original contribution to sociology. Our mele ಒಂದು 30% of the question paper is always on those people. Even if it is only one subhead in the syllabus list of syllabus, that subject requires deeper study because 30% of the questions always come from that topic. ಆ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, analyzing the previous questions is very important. You analyze the question, you decide what is more important in the syllabus than other subjects ಅಂತ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಆ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. That's how time management has to be done.
Yeah. So the next question is, good evening sir, a nice explanation. If I take science course, then can I join Archaeological Department of India through UPSC?
Archaeological Survey of India also recruits people, and UPSC only will be conducting those examinations. But UPSC Civil Services examination, about which I have spoken so far, that does not cover Archaeological Survey of India. That is a separate examination altogether. To the best of my understanding, archaeology requires specialization in history and archaeology. MA history ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು, advanced archaeology subject ತಗೊಂಡು ಓದಿರಬಹುದು. Maybe they are opening it up to science also, but I am ignorant. ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅದು. That you have to find out.
Okay. This is from Syed Yasir. Hi, sir. When do you think is the right age to start the career of IAS?
I mentioned in my speech, I think that second year of your degree is the best time to start. If you start early, then that's good. After PUC, degree ಸೇರುವಾಗಲೇ ನಾನು IAS ಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಮೆನಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ಲಕ್ಕಿ. ಅಷ್ಟು ಅಡ್ವಾನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಿಪರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಯು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್, ವೆನೆವರ್ in your first year, second year, third year, you decide and you start. But once you start, you give yourself 2 years before you, minimum of 2 years before you take a preliminary examination. That doesn't mean that if somebody is not prepared, but he wants to write the examination, I am not discouraging them. Or try ಮಾಡೋದು ಮಾಡಲಿ. Ideally, it's better to start preparing at least for about 2 years and then make an attempt. Because you should not waste the attempts also, because wasting an attempt also means spending a year. I will not say wasting, spending a year. So therefore, your first attempt should be your best attempt. Another ಹಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ minimum 2 years ಅಲ್ಲಿ start ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕಾಣ್ತದೆ before the exam.
Thank you, sir. This is from Manjusha Kamath. Sir, do we have any section for LLB students? If we have, sir, then can you please brief us about how to prepare for it?
LLB students ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜ್ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, an important part of general knowledge, general studies paper will be on civics and political science, civics and constitution. So any LLB students will know some basics of the constitutions. Fundamental rights ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಪ್ರಿವೆಂಟಿವ್ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನು, CRPC ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ, IPC ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ, ಇಷ್ಟು ಈ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಲೋಕಸಭಾ, ರಾಜ್ಯಸಭಾ I mentioned. So for these subjects, LLB students will have a natural advantage because you would have studied law, you would have studied constitution. Law and constitution are a very important part of the general studies paper. To that extent, it help ಆಗ್ತದೆ. In your optional, ನೀವು ಏನು ತಗೊಂತೀರಾ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. If you also take law as an optional, then it will be good. If you are taking some other optional, you have to make an extra preparation for that optional.
Okay. This is from Shamantak. What is the way of thinking to become good civil servant?
Well, that's a good question and a very broad question. Let me attempt an answer.
Yes.
A good civil servant requires certain, let's say 3 or 4 qualities. First of all, a civil servant has to be an honest civil servant. You have to work in accordance with the constitution and the legal framework of India, and which India is a society which respects rule of law, and it expects certain amount of expects full honesty and a commitment to rule of law from its civil servants. So a civil servant has to be honest. Second quality a civil servant should have is empathy, because when you are a civil servant, when you are dealing with administration, you are dealing with people, and the government needs to be responsive to the needs of the people. And you cannot be a good civil servant, in my opinion, if you are not responsive and empathetic. So empathy and compassion for the common people, particularly for the poor and the weaker sections, is very important for a civil servant, because laws are actually meant for the poor. The people say that, because the rich sometimes break the laws and get away with it. Rich people do not depend on government also too much. It is the poor, the farmers, the agricultural laborers, homeless people who need government support to build a house. They are the people who need service from the government, and you need to be sympathetic to their cause. You need to have compassion and empathy for that cause. This is the second quality as civil servant should have. The third quality is we should be hardworking. You should be focused, because most of the civil servants get into jobs which require 24/7 attention. You cannot say that once you are a civil servant, you are always a civil servant. Whether it's a Sunday or Saturday, you have to work hard. So you have to work hard and stay focused. That is your third attribute. A fourth attribute is you should, because it is said, it is not enough to be honest, but it is also important to be seen to be honest. Because these days the perception of the people about civil services is sometimes not very good. People think that civil servants are corrupt, and there is a lot of corruption in government. So therefore the perception is, by association, you tend to be seen as guilty by association. Because you are a civil servant, people think that you are corrupt. So therefore it is very important to demonstrate that you are not, and therefore transparency in your behavior, in your working, in the decision making is the fourth aptitude that you have. And the fifth one, actually, which goes with compassion, but it's an independent attribute in itself, is justice and fairness. Because when you are sitting in a chair as a civil servant, when you are signing something, when you are deciding something, when you are saying something, you are always affecting somebody or the other. So therefore, whether you are affecting somebody unfairly, disproportionately, and unjustly, or whether you are delivering justice, is very, very important. So justice and fairness, compassion, honesty, transparency, and hardworking. These are the 5 attributes that any good civil servant should have.
Thank you. Next question is from Shushmita. Hello, sir. Can you please recommend us some basic sources for us to prepare for UPSC?
Well, I mentioned that I have prepared for this exam long ago, so you must consult some recent sources. But let me just give you some basic understanding. The level of knowledge that is tested for general knowledge, etc., is not very high. Actually, it is only high school, 10th, 11th, and 12th CBSE syllabus. So the NCERT books on India's history, ancient history, medieval history, modern history, India's freedom struggle, India's geography, India's polity, the political, civics, what we call civics, and the government. On all these subjects, the NCERT publication books for the class 10th, class 11th, and class 12th are available. They are available for online ordering. They are available in most of the important bookshops in Avenue Road, etc. So you need to buy a set of books. They are not very expensive also. You can set, that is a basic guide that you need to have. Secondly, as I mentioned, that you should read newspapers comprehensively and magazines, and I recommended that Hindu and Frontline you should subscribe so that you can prepare. These are the 2 sources. As far as the subjects are concerned, the general study, as far as the subjects are concerned, you please consult somebody. There are online coaching institutions, etc., and find out which are the good books for those subjects. Because for each subject, a set of books are available. Those I do not know all those books, but this is a basic sources that you need to get into. NCERT books, read newspapers and magazines regularly, and buy some general knowledge books for civil services. They may be available online.
Yeah. The next question is from Mohammad Shafi. Sir, can I face UPSC interview in Kannada language?
I frankly am not aware whether interview they are accepting in Kannada language. We know that you can write the examination in Kannada. Interview panels, I don't know whether they have been set up. My knowledge is dated. Kindly verify with somebody else. I don't want to give a misleading information on this.
The next is from Nirupada. Sir, how to face bureaucrat political pressure?
Let me advise you at this point in time that you must focus on preparing for the examination. You focus on succeeding in the examination, getting into it. Once you get into it, I'm sure you will be able to face pressures from above and below. But I already gave you one formula that you need to have 5-6 attributes to be effective civil servants. Those qualities, if you have, some of the problems posed by political pressure, etc., can be faced, because one basic golden rule in bureaucracy, ground rule, is do not do anything wrong. Okay, try to help people. If there is a political boss asking you to do something, do not reject it outright. First, examine it in the light of the law and etc., and see if you can do it. My experience is often political leaders tell you to do something which may be possible. They may be asking you to find ways to solve a problem. Often they come up with, they basically will be relaying the request they would have received from their voters or their followers or people. So sometimes you genuinely try to understand the point of view of the political leader. In a democracy, political leaders are important. Elected chief ministers, elected ministers, etc., head the government, and we are here to serve them. So therefore, you need to have an attitude that they are as much an important part of this system as we are. So therefore, try to understand their point of view and try to find solutions and help them. But there may be an occasion where people will ask you straightforward to do a totally illegal thing. Then say no, clear cut no. Examine it and then say no, it cannot be done. So, and you stick to your line. And therefore, my experience is that it's very rarely that, political leaders have asked me directly to do something totally wrong. They'll only say, sir, prayatna ಮಾಡಿ, find a solution. ಕಾನೂನು ಇರೋದು ಜನಗಳ ಸೇವೆಗಾಗಿ, ಅದನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ನೋಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ನೋಡಕ್ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಹೋಗಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋ ಬದಲಾಗಿ, okay sir, I will see what best I can do. Take a day's time, take a 2 days time and try to see and then go back and try to solve the problem. Otherwise you tell them that ಇದು ನನ್ನ ಕೈಲಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಸರ್ಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ಯಾರ ಕೈಲೂ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಪ್ರಯತ್ನನೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. All these different ways of responding are available. But right now I would advise you not to worry about it. I would advise you to worry about how to prepare for this examination and get into it.
Yes. Thank you. This is from Nayana. Sir, can we choose home cadre and will they appoint as per our wish for IPS?
For IPS and IAS, you can give an option for home cadre, but it is not necessarily they should appoint, because for every state, every year an X number of people get allocated. In Karnataka, I'll give you a live example. In Karnataka, let us say they want to appoint 6 IAS officers this year, or let's say 6 IPS officers this year. Out of that, 1/3 are meant for home state people. So 6 ಅಲ್ಲಿ 1/3 ಅಂದ್ರೆ 2 ಸೀಟು ಹೋಮ್ ಕ್ಯಾಟರ್ನವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎದಿರ್ತದೆ. So how many people have qualified for IPS from Karnataka? 5 ಜನ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಫೈ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. And what are their rankings? So the top 2 ranking people will be allotted home cadre. The other 2 will not be allocated home cadre. They will be allocated their second choice. The second choice could be Andhra Pradesh or Tamil Nadu. Like that, they get allotted. So the answer to that question is yes, you can be allocated to your own home cadre. ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡಿಗ, ನಾನು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ. But it depends on the number of vacancies that year and your ranking in the list.
This is from Shalini. Hello sir, thanks for your information. I often hear that apart from knowledge test, civil services exam is more about EQ and not about always IQ. Can you please throw some light to it?
Well, that's a good observation, I would say, because EQ is very important for civil services. But I would say that, for civil services, and I would encourage people to develop their EQ. For those who may not know what EQ stands for, EQ stands for emotional quotient. ಮೊದಲೆಲ್ಲ IQ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೋಶೆಂಟ್. ಈಗ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ gurus, management experts have been saying EQ is also important. And what does EQ mean? EQ has some 5-6 components. Emotional quotient ಅಲ್ಲಿ 5 to 1 a good awareness of your own self-awareness ಅಂತಾರೆ. What are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? ನಾನು ಮುಂಗೋಪಿ, ನನಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಬೇಗ ಕೋಪ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತದೆ, but I have a capacity to work hard. This is my analysis of my own person. So that is called self-awareness. Secondly, Empathy about other persons. ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳುವಷ್ಟು ಸೌಜನ್ಯತೆ ಮತ್ತು ತಾಳ್ಮೆ ಇರಬೇಕು. That is empathy. Like this, there are several qualities of EQ, which is goes beyond intelligence quotient, and it's important that we have this. But for civil services preparation, knowledge and intelligence and power to recall, analytical capability become more important. EQ becomes more important during interviews, and EQ becomes extremely important for success once you get into the service.
True. So have you ever felt difficult in managing both the work and family at the same time? Is it very difficult to manage and give time to family being a civil servant?
I don't think so. It is difficult, but it is not impossible. You need to be very clear that there has to be work-life balance. There was a time when senior civil servants used to say, ನಾನು ನನ್ನ 30 ವರ್ಷದ ಸೇವೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ದಿನನೂ ರಜಾ ತಗೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ? You should have taken, in my opinion, because taking leave and relaxing and coming back with a fresh mind is more important in the interest of productivity. So therefore, if you make an effort, you can achieve a good work-life balance. You need to have an understanding partner once you get married. But otherwise, I think civil servants, by and large, can give time to families. I'm told my colleagues in the IPS, Indian Police Service, find it a little more challenging because their work demands more presence in the field. My IPS friends, when I was in the district, would always carry a wireless with them, or at least give to the control room the phone number of the host, whichever houses they're going for a party or some for an event. Then the phone will come, then they would go in the night. So for police service is a bit challenge maintaining work-life balance. For other civil services, I would say that it is possible to maintain a work-life balance, and you should maintain that, in my opinion.
Okay. So this question is from Anushri. Sir, Hindu News has been a best newspaper we can accomplish all current affairs. How do we correlate these topics with syllabus of UPSC? Can you please give an example?
Syllabus of UPSC, a lot of emphasis is given on general studies. I have mentioned to you earlier. And during preliminary examination, since it's a objective type question, multiple choice questions, so therefore newspaper, any knowledge that the newspaper gives will be of use. But when it comes to main examination, a paper like Hindu will give you a analytical depth about the issues. I already mentioned when I was speaking, more detailed historical context about an issue. For example, if there is a question on Indian economy, where they would say that, let me give an example since you asked for it. It is said that Mahatma Gandhi Narega, National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, has affected the availability of labor supply for agriculture, and therefore it has an adverse consequence, a negative impact on agriculture. Do you agree? Give your reasons. This is a question. How do you answer this question? For which you should have read some literature, some research that has gone on in this field, because people have studied. People have said that what is the impact of Narega on agriculture? Because farmers will be employing agricultural laborer, let us say by paying them 250 rupees in Karnataka. Let us say at the same time government has opened up a Narega work and paying 290 rupees. So naturally people will go to Narega work rather than coming to agricultural field. So the farmer will be affected. So there are studies, people have done studies, etc. If you have studied, if you have read and followed the Hindu newspaper over, let us say, 1 or 2 years, including frontline magazines, I am sure 1 or 2 topics on Narega and its impact on agricultural labor would have come. That time what you should do is you read it, you make a cutting, and then you make a folder and keep it with you. So then, see, reading that newspaper has helped you. India's space program, has it been a success or a failure? Question mark. Give your reasons. Answer. 60 marks. Write 3 pages. Can you write that? Are you prepared to do that kind of, to answer that? For that, you should know what is India's space program. When did we start? When was ISRO, which is located incidentally in Bangalore, when was it set up? Who was its first chairman? What have been ISRO's achievements? ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು. So yeah, this is one examination which requires you to be aware of a lot of things. After all, ultimately, you will go and work for policy making. You will decide, while writing policies, what kind of laws should be made, what kind of programs should be designed, what are the economic problems the country is facing, what should be the response. ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋದು at some point of time civil servants. So to prepare you for that, they will choose a person who has the capacity to read and understand and accumulate and assimilate knowledge. Adikya newspapers are very important, particularly slightly serious and comprehensive newspapers. More than the TV news, it is the written news which is important, and therefore you should focus on that.
Okay, one moment. So one last question. Which subject on a degree level are impactful to serve as an IAS or IFS officer?
Well, I would say that any degree person with any degree can come and succeed. It all depends on that individual person. There is no requirement that only engineers will succeed, or I am an agriculture student, I have succeeded. I have seen an engineering student who has succeeded. So I would say that people from various backgrounds, they come and succeed. So the degree which you acquired becomes less important. What you have done subsequently becomes more important, and therefore I don't think I would be able to pinpoint any single degree as, okay, this is a degree which makes IAS officers better. No, there is no such thing. Anybody can succeed. It all depends on that individual person's training, aptitude, their understanding, and the kind of career exposure that particular person has, that makes him or her a successful person. Degree is a requirement, a basic requirement.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for guiding our students to crack the UPSC exam in an easy way. And on this note, I would like to thank our sponsors for making this happen. Our gold sponsors are AMC Education Institution, Atria Institute of Technology, Insight IAS, and our silver sponsors are Sir M. Vishweswaraya Institute of Engineering, Hindustan Business School, KS Group of Institutions, Shaheen Group of Institutions, Bidar, Rajarajeshwari Group of Institutions, and Ramaya University, Bengaluru. Thank you, sir. We'll meet again at 4 o'clock. We have about the importance of National Education Policy by Dr. C.N. Ashwath Narayan, our Honorable Minister. Stay tuned. Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Thank all the participants in this webinar, and thank for the wonderful questions that I have received. I thank the Hindu group for giving me an opportunity to speak to young aspirants. Thank you.
Our pleasure, sir. Thanks from our Hindu group. Thank you. Namaste.